Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with London-based jazz multi-instrumentalist and composer Jonny Enser of the band Matters. He talked about their latest 2021 single, A Beginning, out on May 19, 2021. It's his debut project, and this cat is deeply influenced by spiritual jazz, with undercurrents carrying grooves from the roots of the blues to West Coast beats. Get to know him and enjoy.
Yeah, nice to meet you on the phone.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for taking a minute out.
That's absolutely fine, no problem. It's a pleasure to be on the phone with you, so it's all good.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your single, A Beginning, and it's coming out during a pandemic, a very strange time on planet Earth. Talk to me a little bit about the music and the timing of it, kind of that whole thing.
I guess the good thing about the timing of this is that, you know, I've been waiting for a year, so I'm super excited about this next step. This next beginning, I guess. This project's kind of been burgeoning for 2 to 3 years, and last year we had our first 3 gigs lined up in March and April, and obviously that all got pushed back. So I'm just about finding my feet with some sort of release campaign. The music is, it's an extension of my time playing with a band called Nubian Twist, and that's taught me how to sort of put together a lot of personalities in music. And it was this track is sort of an homage to my grandfather who financially supported me in, you know, my studies music, and he was a tubist, and so he was happy to, which is a tuba player, he was happy to help me go through those motions of becoming a musician, and paid for all my lessons growing up, even though he was from quite modest means himself. So I'm super grateful for him, and so after his passing I put a bit of that money into buying a decent instrument, decent tuba and a nice piano, and then this music just started coming. And in collaboration with my friend Matt Davies, who's a great drummer, plays in a load of great bands. One particularly good one is called Noya Rao. But yeah, between me and him, and, you know, going to lots of friends' living rooms and recording them playing different parts, the sound started to come together, and this is the first track. So this is majoritively done in the box software to get it together, but I think it's got quite a good raw live sound to it. So that's a bit of a story about that tune for sure.
So this is just a part of an album that's going to come out later this year, and that has to feel good when we, like, just the idea that things are going to start opening up and you can get a campaign going. What have you missed the most about just the world shutting down and not having this latitude to be a musician like you were used to?
I mean, life's essentially stopped. I couldn't really tell you what's happened in the last year. For me, playing music is a part of my spiritual expression, and it's something that I do. You know, I'm a bit of a gig junkie, and just take on all the work I can to go and, like, refine my craft and play with all sorts of different people, learn different ways of expressing themselves, learning different traditions, and trying to better the way I play. And I always find that's best done communally, and, you know, so all of that's disappeared. So as I said before, I'm excited about the movement that's about to come, and about this progression in my career, having been a sideman pretty much my entire career so far, taking matters into my own hands, I guess, and, you know, allowing myself to dream. So this is what we're entering into, and yeah, it's been really hard. I'm sure it's been hard for you too.
Yeah, it's been quite a year. Are you in London proper?
Yeah, I mean, I live in South East London, in Camberwell. So yeah, I am in London proper. I'm in Zone 2. So yeah, London proper.
As far as I'm concerned, being somebody that's from the United States, and I look at the lore of London and England, I mean, so much good music has come out of there. There's so much good music consistently in different genres comes out. Talk to me a little bit about how you got groomed to be a musician, and more specifically jazz.
Yeah, well, my first entry to music was having piano lessons, you know, when I was a kid, like from the age of 5. My parents didn't listen to music that I am particularly fond of these days, or ever have really been, and so I've always been a bit of an outsider inside my own family, I guess, with what my musical taste was. Definitely have always been inspired by brass, where as soon as someone came into a school assembly when I was about 10 years old and played, saxophone, clarinet, trombone, trumpet. And as soon as he picked up the trumpet, my ears just were on fire. Obviously, it's an incredibly loud instrument, but it just filled me with so much fire and excitement about what you can do with your breath and how you can master that and how you can, use that as a form of expression, which is just an extension of, we all have to breathe all day. We all have to do that every moment of every day and every evening and every night and all the time. So just the idea that you can turn that into something that's inspiring for other people as well has always been a bit of a dream for me. I think that reality is, for me, I've always been one of those people who have never been the most talented in the group. Not once in my entire life, but I've always worked hard at trying to achieve the next thing and trying to articulate the tradition, as well as possible by going and studying with those who I believe have mastered it or are the forefathers of those traditions. So, that's what I guess my grooming, as you put it, would be through the years that I've spent so far learning and have every intention of continuing in exactly the same way, to be honest. I never really want to stop learning and keep progressing.
So what was the first live jazz show you saw that really motivated you and made you think, man, that's something I'd like to do?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a really good question. What was the first jazz concert that I went to? I remember in my local village hall. I grew up in a tiny village called Great Milton. Which is in a very quaint, probably the exact idea what people in the States imagine England being like, very, rural, more cows than there are people, rolling green fields, all of that stuff. But as you can imagine, kind of devoid of a lot of culture, specifically black culture, I reckon, as well. So, when I was growing up, I was relatively isolated to the ideas of jazz live. I got my first Louis Armstrong CD when I was 10, and I studied it and I loved it, and I was so aware of what I was listening to. I think the first gig that really inspired me was probably going to see one of my trumpet teachers play when I was 13 or something like that. That really changed the game for me, seeing how those people interacted live on stage and all the rest of that. I'd always been into sort of big band jazz too, so going to see any local bands play was always a treat. There was a guy called Denny Eilert who used to play with Count Basie and people like that when he was in his youth, when they would come through England, and he was playing in their band. So watching him play when I was a kid was a real inspiration for sure, because he could play, and he could play the tradition. He understood it properly, and he was a fantastic trumpet player. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. I haven't got a great answer for you, to be honest.
No, that was a great answer. You get to wake up every day being a creator, and you get to cultivate your art. What do you like the best about being a professional musician?
I come from a really big family. I mean, I'm not like Catholic big, but I come from a family with three siblings, and I'm used to being around people a lot, and I find great solace and comfort and affirmation in being surrounded by people, being able to both communicate musically and spiritually and sort of conversationally with people on a regular basis really suits my temperament. And also I think that there's not really many better things you can do for money. I've done other jobs in my life and I haven't found anything that's as fulfilling yet. And so, I'm going to keep with it, I guess. And just making sure that you communicate with other people and with audiences, that's really one of the biggest things for me. Being able to lift other people's spirits and give them a bit of fuel to have in their tank for their weeks, uplift people's spirits and get their feet moving and make life worth living. That's the dream.
So everyone has a perception or an idea of who you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately, you're living your life. Who do you think you are?
Well, I think you put it quite well. I'm a creator, man. I come up with ideas and I instigate and I build and I try and make everything a little bit better, whether that be in my own life or in other people's. And that's really how I see myself. I really do try my best to do well by others and to, in fact, fulfill them and inspire them. Like, I spend 3 days a week being a mentor in schools, in state schools around London, and I take that role really seriously, like paying that forwards, and being an advocate for the arts, I take that seriously, and trying to be as politically sound in the way that I express myself, and try and further this art form is kind of my goal. So that's the way I kind of see myself, I think.
Jonny, thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in London, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Jonny for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.